Okay, hello everyone. I am Jody Burtis, and I'm going to be giving a quick introduction to what you can expect out of this workshop. So this includes goals, objectives, expected outcomes, sort of a general overview. As Jamie said, we haven't really done something like this before. This is kind of the first hybrid workshop that we've ever attempted. And so there's going to be a lot of things that are different about this workshop than other workshops, and especially different than spring meetings and fall meetings that we're used to going to for LSIC. So just want a chance to sort of set expectations, make sure everyone's on the same page about what to expect over the next 2 days. Oh, great, okay. Great, there's one right here. Okay, perfect. So for the, in fact, here, let me grab this. Everyone should have received this little piece of paper. Sorry, virtual folks, I don't know if you can see me. Everyone should have received this little piece of paper with their program booklet that shows the Slido link and event code, as well as a little QR code that you can scan. So for some of the sessions that we're going to be having over the next 2 days, we're going to be using Slido. So this is going to be for Q&A. So for example, for the panels that we have, we'll use Slido for Q&A. And then also for the keynote presentation, if you'd like to ask Michelle Monk any questions, that'll also be through Slido. For folks online, sorry that you couldn't actually see the paper I was holding up, but if you go to sly.do in your browser or slido.com, and then you type in to the event code LSIC-LPG, all caps, then you should be able to get to our Slido for the event. And so just as a reminder, please don't share any proprietary information over Slido. Let's see. Oh, I forgot that I put it in the slides. Here it is. You can scan it. If you did not receive one of these pieces of paper, you can scan it. And if you're on your computer, you can also use your camera from your phone to scan that QR code, or just go to sly.do or slido.com and type in that event code. So that's what we'll be using. Okay, so bird's eye view to this workshop. I apologize, it might be kind of small font, but you can also access this on the event webpage. And so the event webpage you can find through lsic.jhuapl.edu. You can also find it in the email that I sent all of you, whether or not you're attending in person or virtually, you should have gotten the link to the event page. So this is all on there. But just as a general overview, bird's eye view, this is the general layout of how things are going to go. So right after my presentation here, this workshop goals, we're going to get into a keynote by Michelle Monk. Then we're going to have a kickoff discussion. So this is just kind of introducing people to this discussion format that we're going to have. Again, like Jamie mentioned, this is a working workshop. This is work. This isn't us sitting and kind of listening to people talk like you are right now. But the most of it is going to be a working workshop. Okay, then they're going to break off into lunch. After we come back from lunch, we'll have a panel, and then an open discussion 1, which is kind of inspired by conversations that happened during the panel. I'll talk about how the open discussions are going to go in just a moment. And then on day 2, it will be similar to sort of the afternoon of day 1, where we will have a panel and then an open discussion that is inspired by the content in the panel. And then we'll wrap it up with takeaways and next steps and kind of, where we go from here, what did we learn, what do we need to do next, those kind of things. Okay, so the open discussions. Again, this is different than things that we've done in the past, so I just want to kind of brief everyone and make sure we're all on the same page. These are going to be discussion periods that follow each of the 2 panels. So there's a panel on day 1, and then open discussion on day 1. There's a panel on day 2, and then open discussion on day 2. You can see the prompts for the 2 open discussions there on the slide. But again, the panels are intended to serve as sort of jumping off points for the open discussions, and then any of the conversations that you have in the open discussions. So you'll be given sort of like a list of questions to kind of help prompt your conversations. These are all just kind of jumping off questions. So no need to read into the wording of the questions in the open discussions. They're really just to kind of inspire, your creativity and sort of inspire the conversation. But, it can be very free form if you would like. The 2 open discussions are 90 minutes total. So half of that time is going to be breakouts into small groups. So many of you probably saw in the dining area, there were sort of these round tables that have table numbers on them. And so you all likely received a table number of some kind when you registered or when you checked in for your badge. So that's the table you'll go to. And then the other half of this 90 minutes, the second half, is going to be reporting out to the large group. So we'll all come back into the auditorium, reconvene. We'll recombine with the online folks who are going to be doing something similar. They will also be breaking out into Zoom breakout groups with very similar prompts, in fact, identical prompts. So that is going to be the format. And then when we come back together, we will kind of report out and sort of talk about what we all talked about in our breakout group. So it's a nice little kind of recap of that. These are unique to the kickoff discussion that is going to occur right after the keynote. So it'll be me talking right now, then we'll have the keynote, and then we'll have a kickoff discussion. So these open discussions are unique to the kickoff discussion. The kickoff discussion is much more of sort of an open-ended, broad set of questions just to get you thinking, just to get things flowing and started. The groups are going to be larger. You're going to have more of an opportunity to just kind of get comfortable with this format. So it's sort of like a dipping your toe in the water sort of thing into these open discussions. And then this is just some things that I wanted to throw up here just so that everyone was aware. There's the overarching goal of this workshop is to figure out the attributes of a facility or facilities that would be needed to demonstrate on Earth that a system of systems would work on the moon. So if you're interested in the 3 specific objectives kind of below that, you can read them up here. But as Jamie mentioned, this is something that we have been talking about in a lot of the focus groups and a lot of LSIC meetings. And it isn't something that we've really explored in depth. So that is the goal of this workshop, is to do exactly that, explore this in depth and get your hands dirty, get into the meat of it, get into the grit, and start talking about it. So you'll notice that there aren't a lot of outlets in this auditorium, and there also aren't a lot of outlets in the dining area, and I would assume also the classrooms. And this was not intentional, but it is useful, because the goal here is for us to put our phones down, put our laptops down, put everything down, and be in the moment, be present, and talk with your breakout groups, and be engaged in the conversation. So if you came here thinking that you could probably like sit back and just be like, oh, I'm a listener, like I'm just tuning in. No, that is not gonna happen. You all are gonna have to participate. You all are gonna have to get your hands dirty. This is very much a working workshop. Okay, at the end of the workshop, what are we hoping to get out of? Because that'll kind of help everyone frame like what we're supposed to be doing, because even though there are a lot of things on the agenda and there's a lot of things to talk about, unless we have a main goal, a main end goal to this, it can be hard to figure out the point of it or the direction or the motivation and things like that. So the hope is that by the end of this workshop, we will have a detailed list of needs, attributes, and characteristics as voiced by you, the community, the LSIC, the lunar technology community, on what a lunar proving ground or lunar proving grounds should or should not have. And so this may be in the form of like a matrix or table, which outlines the community's testing needs. And the hope is that this detailed list could then be used to advertise to facility owners or potential future facility operators. We're also hoping to have, by developing this detailed list, we're hoping to have a recognized plan for next steps. So this could consist of a follow-on workshop to identify what actions need to be taken to ensure that a lunar proving ground or lunar proving grounds is developed. And so, that's something that we can talk about during the takeaways and next steps, which is at the very end of day 2 on the program, is sort of, what does this mean for the lunar community, the lunar technology community? What does this mean for lunar proving grounds? And where do we go from here? What is the next step? We want to make sure that there is a goal and a point to this workshop, and not just we're all getting together to talk about stuff. Like, the goal is to get stuff done. And so we want to make sure there are deliverables at the end of this that we can sort of point to as, here's what we've decided, here's what we've figured out, now let's go on to the next step. And so I will also mention that the kind of report out, and of course I'll make a report out from this workshop, the report out will be presented at Ascend is that in October in Las Vegas? Okay, I'm getting some head nods, thank you. So I will be reporting out on this workshop for sort of like a summary and findings and recommendations and things like that. So this will not just be an internal thing, this is going to be shared with the wider community. Is this my last slide? This is my last slide. Okay, great. Oh my gosh, and I have 11 seconds left. Man, keeping it on time. Yeah. Okay, so I believe what we have next, and I'm sorry I don't have my program up, but I believe that we have the keynote address from Michelle Monk, who is joining us virtually. And so let me see, Michelle Monk, can you hear us, and are you able to unmute